So really what we set out to do was we wanted to really talk about parenting and education for our children. Okay, but before we start, I really would like to get everyone to quickly do a quick intro about yourself so that our audience know who's talking. So I'm going to start. Okay, so I'm Eeping. I run a preschool. I used to run a preschool. Now we are turning. We are slowly pivoting to online education. I work with Jake, Ting, and another friend Nancy in invention education. And I'm based in Singapore. Okay, so so I'm going to invite the host. So Julie, you might want to start.
I am Juli Shively, and I'm founder of Innovation World and co-founder with Jake Mendelssohn of the Global Innovation Field Trip. And mighty proud to be invited to be on this educator panel. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Julie. And then I'm going to invite Jeanette.
Hello, I'm Jeanette Cooter, and this is the first time I've hosted or been a co-host on GIFT, but I've been hearing about it for several years from my good friend Juli, who I met when she was very, very heavily involved in Invention Convention. Many years ago, I got very interested in STEM education, and I haven't lost that love, but our school district where I currently teach doesn't have a huge interest in it, we'll put it that way. But I love it. I am a parent. I have one child who's now left the nest. I have lived in many, many countries around the world, but currently I'm teaching 5th grade. I've taught 3rd grade and 1st grade, and I dabbled a little bit in middle school as well.
Wow. Welcome, Jeanette. Thanks. I'm looking forward to hear from you. Also hear about your experiences from around the world. And I'm going to move on to Ting.
Hello, I'm Ting from China, and I am a co-founder of IDE in China, and my partner is Eeping, and now he's in Singapore. He left China. Okay, so I am very lucky to get involved in Invent Future Global and GIFT, and working with very genius people here. And yeah, and now currently we have a very interesting project going. So that is study the environment impact on kids' development, especially when they are very young. So I called Eeping to say that, okay, how about let's have a panel to discuss the concept and the practices in different countries that parents would do or educators would do when kids were very young, and what would be the difference from different countries. That must be very exciting to talk about that. So that's where this discussion comes from. Yeah, so that is me. Very nice to meet everyone here.
And then I'm going to move on to Jake. Sir Jake Mendelssohn.
There it goes. My name is Jake Mendelssohn. I'm in the United States. I was originally a student, and as a student, I was interested in what was going on in education. And then I became an engineer because I actually wanted to make and build things. But then I realized the greatest thing you could build is the future. So I went back to school and became a real teacher. And I am trying to help students create the future. And I have retired from teaching, and I am now working with incredible people around the world as part of GIFT and as part of inventfuture.global. And we will see what the future looks like.
Thank you, Jake. Yeah, I've always been inspired by what you do. I mean, from the first time we met, and I think I've never looked back since. So I hope as a group we can continue to carry on the good work so that future generations can benefit. Julie, yes, I'm sorry, I saw your message, but please, I think the more the merrier, since we have time, right? Okay, then shall I invite Heleen, right?
Wonderful, that's fine, absolutely. Okay, so I'm Heleen Cronje. I am from South Africa. In the educational field, I do genetic brain profiling. So it's an assessment where we do assess whether you are left brain or right brain dominant. We also assess the eyes, the ears, the hands, and the feet. So once we know that, we know how you would react under normal circumstances, but especially what happens during stress. So we can actually help kids understand themselves better. We can assist them in the type of learner they are, whether they're an auditory learner or even a kinesthetic learner, which means they need to move. So in a nutshell, that is what I'm here. I talked a little bit about the left and the right brain earlier today. And then later on, I am going to chat about the left eye and the right eye and the influence and what we learn from it. I'm looking forward to this discussion.
Thank you. I think it's very interesting. So just to confirm, so you actually you run the genetic test.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is not like a genetic. What we do, it's a physical test. So we test the dominance of the eyes, and I will show that later as well how we can do that. And then we also use lots of questions, and we use kinesiology. So it's not like a medical thing where we draw some DNA from your body. So yes, just to clear that up, and just to add on previously, I am a parent of 3 children. So I've got a daughter in 3rd year university, a high school son, and a primary school son. So yes.
Oh wow! Okay. Well, you have a daughter who is already in university.
Yes.
Okay. Great. Okay. Looking forward to hear from all the experts here. So I'm just gonna get the discussion going. So the whole idea is that, because all of us are, seasoned or veteran educators, and I think I'm the only exception here. I don't have children, so so I would really like to invite you to share a little bit about your parenting journey. Maybe if you could share what you do to help your children prepare for life. I think that's one of the things that we are always saying. Why do we go to school is to prepare them for life. So what do you think? And this is a question that I'm just going to pose to the floor, right? Thanks, Julie. I run a preschool, and for years, about 10 years. So I always tell people that even though I don't have children of my own, but I do have a lot of children, and it's great. Some of them, like Daniel used to go to our school. So anyways, okay. So I would like to pose this question to all of you. What do you think is most important when it comes to kids' education? Now that you are, you've gone through the process of bringing up your own kids, and you're in the field of education. So, if there's one thing that you think is most important, what do you think is most important when it comes to, education?
Do you mean when they're very young or when they're older, or are you thinking of a particular age range?
Well, I come from, I started my career in IT, and I decided to go into education, and specifically I chose early education because my personal belief is that, a lot of, we should really start young in terms of cultivating certain habits and dispositions, right? So I'm just going to leave it open-ended, just hear from you. So if you're asking me for myself, I think, what's really important is that at preschool levels, it's really important to develop dispositions as opposed to, what we see in some schools where they focus on academics. And I do have a question on academics, later. Yeah. I hope that clarifies.
Yeah, maybe I can start. I can be the first to share because I have a boy who is 7 years old and he just passed that devil period for me. So I think one, because many Chinese parents, once kids were very young, especially at 3 to 5 years old, they have to learn quite a lot of things. For example, can you imagine they have to learn English at this young age, and they have to learn some math, some basic knowledge of math, and some will need to learn how to communicate, how to do the presentation. And so, in fact, many Chinese parents want the kids to learn as many skills as early as possible, just to prepare the kids get ready for future challenges. So, but currently, recent years, people start to think in a different way. They think that students and the kids may need some skills like problem solving, thinking, or critical thinking. So many, for example, my boy, maybe he hadn't joined any classes outside school, but he played drum or piano or guitar just because he loves that. He wants to have a concert, so he tried to learn that. So what we want to do is that when he has some thinking, some ideas, we try to help him to make that happen. And when he wants to give up, and we want to make him believe that he has the ability or can find a way to solve that. So I think that is very important at a very young age for this concept to be to be planted into my kids' heart. So to make that a big tree in future. Yeah. And yeah, this is some of my thinking in my head.
I would share my son was in 2 different countries during those preschool years. And we were living in Tanzania at the time. And then we also spent some time back here in the States. And he was in preschool situations in both places. And there were some amazing women in Tanzania who were running preschools. And they had the best one, because he was in about 4 different preschools there as well. So I had quite a lot to compare with. And some of them, and it was very culturally, you could see the cultural backgrounds of the people who were running these preschools and what their ideas were. And some were very, very strict. And I remember in one preschool, it was the only place he had a temper tantrum, was because it was the kind of place when we would go and pick him up, there were 20 art projects and they were all exactly the same. And he did not do well in that one. And the other ones where I think, kind of answering your question, where they were given so much freedom and so much space to explore and play. The preschools were set up where play was the understanding that is a young child's work, is to play, but not just, just not unstructured play all the time, but to have different places. So you've got your gross motor skill play, you've got your artistic play, you've got your listening to stories and stories and stories. Language is so important at that age. So, and social play, all of those sorts of things were so useful from those really good preschools that he was able to go to in Tanzania. And then he came back and we spent some time in America, and it was a lot more, I would say the regulations took more priority, like the schedule. This is nap time. This is playtime. This is, yep. So I just offer those things. And I think the nugget that comes out of that is the really, really the real importance of play, so that they're learning all those different skills, the whole body sort of development.
I'd like to chime in real quick. I have 6 children ranging from 43 to 8, and I have watched the difficulties some of them had, and as they were learning and educating. And I think if there's one thing I feel that is most important, is the pursuit to identify what kind of learner someone is, and then the follow through to help them learn in the way that best fits that student or that learner. And I know that there are people talking about it, and I know that there has been some efforts, but with our traditional public school system, it's just an impossibility as they're set up today to accommodate different learners' needs. So that to me is the most important, is learning, working harder to identify those different learning abilities and providing solutions for it.
Yes, I can just so agree with you, Julie. It is so important. And unfortunately, as you say, lots of the schools have specific ways that they've been doing school for how many years. And there's so many different kids. Just to have a look at a left brain and a right brain dominant kids, the way they perceive information, it's just so much different. And I just want to mention one thing that I've seen that has such a big impact in kids. And I can't believe it's still happening, but believe me, it's still happening. Lots of time in preschool, when they start to learn how to write, there's still some teachers that believe you need to write with your right hand. So lots of those kids who are actually left-hand dominant, so it's a function of writing that is supposed to work crosswords out of your right brain. So now they need to use their right hand, which is not their dominant hand. A function needs to happen out of the left brain. So for those kids, it's very hard, very frustrating, especially if they're under stress. So they would know their work so well the evening before they write a test. And when they have to write the test, it's like there's a glitch in the system, because now they write with a non-dominant hand. So yes, from my side, that is a major thing that's still happening in some preschools where teachers let them write with the right hand instead of really making sure that they are writing with their dominant hand.
So I think preschool is a very unique phase. When you put it into the spectrum of education, the reason why I say this is that in Asia. So I've a lot of thoughts on this. So let me try to organize, right? Firstly is that, in Asia, the moment we go into formal education, which is elementary school, or in Asia, we call it primary school, you start to learn things by subjects. So when I was running the preschool, I was, and Singapore, we commissioned a study, our Ministry of Education, the Department of Education commissioned a study, and they wrote the curriculum. We have changed the learning areas, okay, from subjects, we start to term it learning areas. We have removed things like, science or whatever. We call it discovery of the world. And so it starts from, I think it's a mindset shift. So instead of saying that we need our children to learn certain knowledge, what we start to do is we start to encourage them to show interest in the world around them. So that's how. So recently I've been a big part of my work now is really working with preschool teachers. So this is one thing. But also after hearing everyone, I used to think that it is something that's very unique to Asian culture, right? So the first thing is when I was growing up, the way that it would have been communicated to me is that study hard, go to a good school, get into a good university, get a good job. Okay, so you see that it is actually, the objective is not to prepare the children for life, it's to prepare you for a good job. Okay, so that you have a good life, right? And then you realize that as it trickles down, you will see that you are actually the way that we are executing it is we are preparing them for the next phase in their education journey. So you hear of things like in Hong Kong, they have entrance exams for kindergarten, and then they go to preschool. You see that instead of the children enjoying learning about how to deal with things in life, right? They are preparing for, the exams, okay, in primary school, right? So this, which is the reason why I really like the Invention program, because one of the things that does not change in life is that we solve problems, at every point of time in our lives. So I think, maybe that's something. Well, but I think, it's great to hear from everyone. I think, as much as the practices are different in different areas of the world, but there are some common problems that we see. Personally, I think that the future of learning could be very different. Okay, it used to be we need to teach our children how to look for information. I think, we are moving into we are already in a time where there's information overload, right? So we also need to teach them how to, find and analyze information. Okay, great. I think let's move on to the next thing. There's I hear a lot of these, it seems like, there's a growing concern that our children nowadays are reading less. Do you find that? And so what are your views on this, and what are you doing with your children, or whether as parents or as educators, how are you helping? What are some suggestions that you have that, parents can do to help their children cultivate and nurture a love for reading? Anyone?
I will chime in because as a fifth grade teacher, this is certainly a problem, and I've seen it growing. First grade, third grade also saw the issue. Some of it is positive. There are some people who are reading just as much as ever. I'll think about my students, and some of them are always buried in a book. But my school district is fairly high socioeconomically. But then I also have a fair number of children, an increasing number every year, who will not read. I mean, it's like pulling teeth for them. A lot of thought is those are children who have been for many, many years inundated with visual stimulation from video games, from TV.
Yes.
And it's very hard for a black and white print on the page to compete with that. But then also, I think that we're not doing as much as we could to, after a certain grade, once you've learned to read, we're not really taking advantage of now we're reading to learn. And I think we still keep, through upper elementary, at least here, still focus on reading as a subject. Like you were talking earlier, I love that about how, changing science to discovery of the world. I mean, we still keep talking about reading, a subject, instead of just pushing that skill down underneath and instead highlighting what you're using it for. And I think that would excite children a lot more.
Thank you, Jeanette. Anyone else?
Yes, I think very important is that us as parents read. Children need to see that we are not constantly on our cell phones,
Yes.
that we actually take a physical book and read it. So I think we fail there very hardly because we actually need to make time, and we get so busy in just surviving in our everyday life that we don't make that time to sit down and read a story or let them read a story to us in the evening. So I think a big responsibility is not always just at the schools, but us as parents need to be that example for them. Yes, from my side, that's it.
I totally agree. Yeah, Ting, you have something to say?
Yes, because I heard Heleen said about the physical book. I think that is really very important because many parents in China reading books from the pad or phone, but children didn't see that they are reading books. Maybe they're playing or sending message. So children will not follow this way because they are not allowed to use mobile phones. So they are not ready. And actually, when children were very young, just like my son, we read books for them, especially at the bedtime when they're going to bed, and we will have maybe 10 to half an hour's reading time together with the kids. But when kids get older, especially older than 3 years old, maybe parents are tired with the reading job, and then we'll have something like apps. There are many stories in the app, so this job leads to the app. And then the children will not see the physical book. They were just listening. Actually, it's not reading. And
Yes.
now, yeah, and maybe their knowledge get increased, but they are not reading. They didn't get that from reading. So this may have some problems when they want to search for useful information in future. And then, like my son, currently he's in the primary school in grade 1. The school have homework for students. They have to read at least half an hour at home and record what the book's name, and then of course what they read into in their recording books. So they have this task recently. So I think schools pays much attention in China to the students reading, but I think some of the students may not take that seriously because the family didn't take reading seriously. Yeah.
So I think that it is really not an easy problem to deal with, because you know, as much as we think that screen time is not really that good, okay, and you know, people like Steve Jobs saying that, yeah, they didn't allow their kids to have devices until they're like 12. But the fact of the matter is, we're not going to go back, you know. So when it comes to the time where, you know, we don't have physical books, we still need to read, because it is, you know, it is the most basic way that we can learn new things. So of course, and we are now talking about, you know, we can watch videos whether on YouTube or TikTok or whatever, but you know, you still need to have basic literacy to be able to, you know, get new information. I personally think, and it doesn't help when, you know, our children have a lot of choices. So my own experience, and this is a dilemma, right? We operate a preschool. As much as we are in education, we are a business. Okay. When the venture capitalists came, they liked the cartoons. But we realized that if we introduce cartoons, you know, early, you know, at early ages like 2 to 3, what we really should be doing is to get them to read the book, so that we leave space, you know, they learn how to, you know, identify print. We leave, you know, some space for imagination and stuff like that. If you have done the reverse, you know, you would have given them a visual, and they probably won't like to read after they watch a video, right? So I think it's really not easy. I also think that what Heleen says is very important. I think it's not so much the medium as much as you know, a compliment, right? You know, if parents would sit down and read with their children, as opposed to, you know, yeah, this is homework, so you can dispense homework, but you know, you're not going to get me interested in reading. I'm doing it because, you know, I've got to hand in homework. So what we're doing in invention education is that, you know, when children are doing research online, whether you're watching a video or, you know, you find an article that teaches you something, hopefully they learn that it is important to be able to read, because it helps them learn new things. I personally think that, you know, if or at least for the work that I do now, you know, I hope that, you know, I can get to that objective. But yeah, well, great. You know, I think that this discussion could go on and on. Mr. Jake Mendelssohn, do you have any views on this reading?
Yes, actually, somebody had said that reading cannot compete with the video. And I think, frankly, it's just the opposite. I have read many stories, books, you know, novels, and then later somebody made a movie about it. And I invariably hate the movie, because I would say, well, that's not the way the hero spoke. And that's not what the heroine looked like. And that's not what the, you know, even if the author had described the horse and said it's a big brown horse, I envisioned a big brown horse with a long tail and a shaggy mane. And all kinds of other things that weren't there. And so I think it's just the opposite. I think that the key to reading is it waters, it enhances your creativity and your imagination. And a video is just here's what I think, take it or leave it. There's no room for you to grow and learn and develop your own personality. You're just watching someone else's. So
and the imagery will already be
I think the reason why students sometimes resist reading is because of that. It requires you to put into it. You just don't sit there with the book. You've got to be part of the book. You're part of the story. And if you just want to sit there like a potato and have somebody, give you the information, you haven't grown any. So, I come from and I know people had said this, just to tell you a real quick story. I'm sorry. Many years ago, many years ago, I was dating two young women, and I went into the house of one of them, and she had a whole bookshelf behind her, wonderful books on the bookshelf. And I picked one off of the bookshelf and just opened it because I love to look at books, and the binding cracked. She had never read them. They were just there for display. And then a week or two later, I happened to be at the house of the other young woman. And when I walked in, she had books all over the house, on the table, on the floor, on the sofa. And there were just books all over. And I was looking at them, and she saw me looking, and she got embarrassed. She started cleaning up. And I said, no. It shows me that those books are part of your house. They're part of your family. Guess which one I married? So that's to me books.
So do you think I guess the challenge is how do we help our children make a habit of reading? I'm going to share this. I've got a very close friend, and it's very interesting because he won a scholarship. He did really well. And now he's got two kids. He just moved to Vancouver because he thinks that his kids, one of his kids not coping well with the system. And we were just having this conversation, and he was telling me that, so in order to make the shift, he took a 1-year sabbatical, and he was saying that, I've been reading a lot recently. The next thing he said was that I have never been a reader my entire life. And now, I'm starting to appreciate the value of reading, and I'm like, so that's something that we really need to think about. Okay, so I'm going to move on. I think we have 5 minutes left. I thought I had a lot of time. I'm so sorry. Okay, so my next question is really on enrichment programs. So here in Singapore, parents are signing up their children for all sorts of enrichment programs, but most of them are focused on enhancing academic performance. Okay, I don't know what it's like in your country, but what are your views on this? And do you think that enrichment programs should be more focused on the child's interests? How do you identify these interests, and who should decide? How do you decide? Because here it's like, okay, you've got to, learn an instrument, you've got to go and learn reading, creative writing. The other day we were just talking about this. It's like, it sounds so boring, right? Creative writing, because it sounds like, it's an exam that you have to take after that, right? So the conversation was like, but we need our children to be better communicators, both written and verbal, right? So sign on for creative writing. So what are your views on enrichment programs? And how does it relate to your child's interest? Yes, Ting.
Yeah, because I want to share a very quick story, especially on this topic. I know a boy who is really a genius. When he was 5 years old, he can tell the functionalities of an airplane because he likes to study all these engineering things. And he can know every plant around my home, in my community. So, but what enrichment class his parents paid for him is a communication and the public speaking, things like that. He doesn't like that. And this kid is the type of that, like studying independently. He will do things or study things by himself. And then if he wants to get some help, he will go directly to get help from the books or from the TV or from the computer. But he's not that type. Have a lecture, there's a teacher tell him that what to do, and you should do like this and you should practice like that, or in a group of children to have a discussion. He's just not that type when he was at that age. So I think that's a very interesting story. So I think to find out what the type this kid is very important to decide what kind of programs we should choose for him or her. Yeah.
So you're saying that signing him up for the things that he's not interested in basically killed his interest in everything.
Well, I think for him that he is a type of how to say that if the programs have more individual tasks for him, then that program may suit him better. If the program have more group activities or more communication sessions, that would make him very nervous. So if you put him into this program, that is not good for him. So I think if we want to put him into a right program, that means this environment would be, how to say, make him comfortable. So he would love, we can encourage him to overcome various obstacles. But if he is in a very, how to say, unsuitable situation for him in this program, then I don't think it is good for his development. That may maybe get him worse.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I don't want to end on a sad note. I hope we'll get that straightened out, but we do have to go on. Thank you very much, Eeping, and thank you, Ting. And I'm not chasing you away. You can certainly stay, okay? But I just want to make sure you were thanked. And Jeanette, also, thank you.